Part two of WPSD's Local 6 Legal Line now with Austin Kennedy of the Bryant Law Center in Paducah. Kenneth, I promised we would get to your questions, so here we go. He says, I went to pay rent, fell off the steps, broke my arm while the landlord wasn't there. Can I take legal action?
I mean, you could always take legal action. Now, whether or not you'll be able to recover, that's a different story. I would say this, that if you just fell off the steps and there was no problem with the step, you're going to have a hard time recovering anything. If, for example, the landlord knew the step was faulty or broken, and you stepped and he failed to repair it, and then you fell, your fall was caused by the step being broken, then I think you've got a much better cause of action, and liability looks a lot better there. But just because you're on someone else's property and you end up getting hurt does not mean automatically their property or their homeowner's insurance is going to pick up and pay for your medicals and wage loss and pain and suffering. You've got to be able to put liability on the landlord or the owner, and that's very difficult sometimes.
We have a question from John who says, what is the proper procedure to follow when I've had an accident at work?
There's a few things I always tell my clients. The best thing to do is tell your supervisor immediately. You need to seek medical treatment. Sometimes they'll transport you to the hospital or go to an employer type medical provider. But you definitely need to get the medical treatment and tell your boss or tell your supervisor that you need to contact work comp to get a claim number so you can put your medical charges on the work comp carrier.
Next question comes from Anonymous, who says, my child was a passenger in a car accident that was caused by a friend of his. Do I have to sue his friend's family?
Not necessarily. Don't think of it like a lawsuit or you're suing somebody if your child was involved in an accident and the driver was at fault and a friend of theirs. It's not a lawsuit. It's a claim against their insurance. If they did something negligent which caused an accident and your child incurred at least $1,000 in accident-related medical bills, then they're going to have a claim. And the first $10,000 for the medical bills are going to be put on the PIP, which is going to be the vehicle they were in. So wherever the insurance company is, they're going to pay on that. And then if he wants to pursue a bodily injury liability claim, then he can as well. You'll put the rest of the medical bills on the health insurance, and then you will pursue a claim and preferably contact an attorney to handle all this. But don't look at it as a lawsuit. I'd say 90% of all car accidents here, and I'm guessing here, are not lawsuits. They're just claims being made. Now, if you can't get a case settled or you got a statute of limitations coming up, then you have to file a suit, and obviously that's going to be a lawsuit against the bad driver. Now, the insurance for the bad driver, whether it's his or his parents, is going to pick up whatever the policy limits are. So don't look at it like a lawsuit. It's mostly just a claim unless you end up having to file suit.
We got about 1 minute left, and Roger wants to know, how do I get workers' comp to pay my wage loss?
Well, you need to contact the work comp carrier. You need to collect your off-work notes from your treating doctor. If the off-work note says that you're unable to go back to work right now, they're going to need that as documentation. They're going to get they're going to get you the wage records from the employer. You usually don't have to do that, but it doesn't hurt to go ahead and collect paycheck stubs. And you're going to request that you be issued the wage loss. Again, I'd contact a lawyer on that sort of thing too.
I have time for one last quick question. In a nutshell, does your office handle trucking accident cases?
We do. We handle quite a bit of those, and they're usually very, very bad accidents, and there's a lot to it. So yeah, feel free to call our office. We'll be glad to talk to you about that.
Austin Kennedy of the Bryant Law Center has been our guest on this section of WPSD's Local 6 Legal Line.